presentation on his perspective on some of these challenges we're facing in governing the world.
Thanks, Chris. I think we're entering a multipolar reality. It's become a bit of a hackneyed phrase, but to give it a sharper focus, the most important development is the rise of China. The growth of China is like another sun entering the solar system. It's entering at such a speed. All of us are feeling with some discomfort. Within a lifetime, a change in the gravitational pull. And we are conflicted. And this sun which is coming in will become significantly bigger than the existing sun we're used to. And it will have a different nature. So it presents all of us, planetary bodies. Australia is a planet, Singapore is just an asteroid. It presents us with an opportunity to alter our orbital course. In fact, whatever exists today will no longer be anyway. So there is a choice which is presented to us as a challenge. If we make a false move, we may be stuck in the wrong part of the universe. If we did not like our previous orbit, this is a chance now to break free and to find more freedom. So a considerable part of our intellectual energy should go into analyzing the nature of this incoming sun. Because it has its own nature, it's different from the existing sun. Last year, auto sales in the US was about 18 million vehicles. In China, it was 28 million vehicles. This just gives a sense of what's happening. China today has a high-speed rail system, which is bigger than the rest of the world combined. And it will probably double in total length in 10 years. Last week at the World Expo in Astana, which coincided with the meeting of the SEO leaders, I was watching a video, Xi Jinping inviting Nazarbayev to the Chinese pavilion and sat him down to us on the high-speed train simulator, a ride from Beijing to Astana. The high-speed train already reaches Urumqi, so it's not that far from there to Hogos to Astana. The Chinese are already helping the Russians build a high-speed rail from Moscow to Kazan. Knowing Nazarbayev, he'd be thinking, I can't move closer to China without simultaneously moving closer to Russia. Which means if I want a link to Beijing, I must have a link to Moscow. Which I think is what the Chinese are thinking. Because what they want really is a link between Moscow and Beijing, which will reduce the ride from a few days to less than 2 days. And along that route, a whole belt of cities will grow. It may be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't matter. But when the Chinese conceive of one belt, one road, it is as a 100-year project. They know many mistakes will be made, there'll be throwbacks, there'll be reactions, there'll be differential progress from country to country. But what we are seeing is an initiative unfolding on an epic scale. But it's not just the US and China. There's also Russia, there's India, there's a Europe which will become more European with Brexit and with Trump. So we're going to find a much more complicated planetary system. It's going to be multipolar, messier. We'll still need the UN and the WTO, But many issues have to be resolved now regionally, because they cannot be resolved internationally. So regional arrangements will be important because for each of us, it will stabilize the region around us. I just flew in from Guiyang, where the Chinese are promoting the idea of an eco-civilization. So for them, it's not just climate change or sustainable development. They are convinced that for all these things to be done, the change must be in the human being and in his value system. So they're promoting the idea of values for a new civilization, which is based on man living in harmony with Mother Nature. It's a little like what Pope Francis has written in his encyclical Laudato Si, where he devoted a whole chapter to the idea of an integral ecology. In Guiyang, I met the president of the East African Court, a Rwandan. And he was telling me how recently the court prevented Tanzania from building a superhighway through the Serengeti, on the basis that, look, the animals migrate all through the Rift Valley, passing from country to country. And you can't do this because we are affected. And this is a problem which East Africa would have to resolve. It cannot be resolved by the UN, it cannot be resolved by ASEAN, it could be resolved by East Africans. And for Australia and Singapore, we're between China and the US, we're between the South and the North, we're between Asia and America. And the region for us is really that region, which is the peninsulas and the islands connecting you to the Asian mainland. So I've always felt from way back when I was with Gareth Evans of the Asian Australia Institute, and I was there at the beginning when APEC was formed, the event which you mentioned. Gareth played a leading role in establishing APEC. I think Australia's destiny in Asia is through Southeast Asia. And year by year, we should see growing links between Australia and the countries of Southeast Asia. It's complicated, it will take time. You always have problems in Indonesia, but it's a relationship you've got to manage. Your best friend is probably Singapore. And between Singapore and Australia, I think we should create a much better region, which will enable us to manage all the challenges of multipolarity, which, whether we like it or not, will be upon us in the coming decades.
Thank you, George. I think we should have Brian Schmidt here talk about planetary movements and cosmology, the way you describe the solar system. And I think referencing the Pope's Laudato Si is a very encyclopedic view of the world and governments. I'm looking forward to the discussions. Valerie, you've had experience as a leader in government, but also as a leader in the UN.